I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jarrett Bassman with Mark McCain, and you're listening to Everyday Athlete, a podcast devoted to bringing you the amazing stories behind the lives of day-to-day CrossFit athletes like yourself. Today, a very special guest, my little sister.
Hello.
Who is wearing the same sweatshirt as me. So, unfortunately, Mark didn't get the memo.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Step up your game.
So, welcome, Becca.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing it.
So it's obviously a family affair, and everyone here knows, obviously you're my sister, and you are married to Coach Chris. So
Still a surprise to some people.
still okay.
I like throwing that out there sometimes.
There actually might be some people here that don't know that we are brother and sister. I'd probably venture to guess there's at least one or two people that don't know.
You'd think the RBF runs strong enough that they would recognize us.
I don't know. Explain to Mark what RBF is.
Resting bitch face.
Oh, there it is.
At school, where I work, it's just resting Becca face.
Oh,
Yeah.
Trying to keep it PC.
trying to patent that.
Yeah.
Where do you work? Let's start there.
I work with Beacon Orthopedics, and I am contracted out to Mount Notre Dame High School in Reading, Ohio, and I am their full-time head athletic trainer. So I am there all day for all the sports.
How long have you been doing that?
This is my 5th school year with MND, and 4th school year with MND, 5 years total with Beacon.
How'd that come about? I mean, because a lot of people probably know you as the very strong girl over in Barbell Club, and then you're in CrossFit from time to time. But I was there for one of how many ACL tears?
4.
4 ACL tears.
4.
And I was there for one of it. It was actually during an intro. It was actually really not even due to CrossFit, but it was during CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
So I remember we're actually doing Helen, which we are doing tomorrow, correct? So this won't air till next week, so it'll be a week behind. But we're doing Helen tomorrow, so this is like a fateful workout for Becca. Putting Becca's, she's running, she's doing everything fine, and put her foot in the band, and she extends her legs out, and she goes, "I just tore my ACL."
Oh, jeez.
And I said, "What?"
No, you didn't.
She said, "I just tore my ACL," and then completed the workout, I believe.
Yeah. I was finished first.
I mean, you were already there, so.
Yeah, mine was already torn.
Yeah,
Right?
it's already torn. I can't do anything else.
Was it on the same? So 4 ACL tears. Are they the same leg or different?
No, the first one was on my right leg, and then it was 3 consecutive ones on my left leg.
Ooh.
How'd they? I'm gonna walk through. Kind of. We're gonna jump around a little bit. But we'll come back around. How'd they happen?
The first one, which was my right knee, happened high school basketball. I was at the top of the key, did a jump stop, and went to pass the ball to the bottom of the key. And when I rotated, I heard something pop, tried to step off the court, and just collapsed, crawled over. Dad thought I was faking, so that was fun. Thanks, Dad. Craig Baston.
Now he knows differently. Right?
Yeah, now he knows.
In retrospect, Parker just had one.
He's had 2.
He's had 2.
2, yeah.
And
or
then,
1.
Yeah.
2 Achilles.
No, I'm saying Parker just had one. So he just
Parker's their little brother.
Parker's little brother. He just had one, and Parker's in denial. My dad's like, "You tore that."
Yeah.
So, anyways.
So that was the first one. Second one was club soccer. I was a goalkeeper. Jumped up, caught a ball, and while I was in the air, the girl tried to head the ball out of my hands, and our legs kind of intertwined around each other's, and she tore my ACL.
So no contact, one contact.
Mm-hmm. Then the third one was my very first game back after being cleared to play. Same thing, I was wearing my knee brace, jumped up for a ball, landed right back on my left leg, and I heard something kind of just snap a little bit, and I fell over, and that one was another one. And then those were all in high school. So I was within a 3-year span. Then went through college just fine, graduated, moved back home, played in an old ladies soccer league, was just fine. Started at Beacon, joined their indoor soccer team, and I went to cut around a defender with the ball, and I felt something click, and I thought that I just sprained it, so I did all my rehab and then hopped into CrossFit, and the band snapped on me and I fully tore it. So that was the fourth one.
So the reason I wanted to touch on this is, I think that's a big reason why you went to Beacon and down the path that you have gone now.
Absolutely.
You know, we have a lot of young people come through, and we have sports teams that come through, but even the young people that come through the doors just for CrossFit, and how imperative it is for those people to learn how to do things correctly. Especially with young females when they're growing in high school, and you're basically in puberty, your body is growing, and we don't have the stability that's there. With just the strength of usually young men, you don't see it as much in young men, but you know, young girls, especially these no contact things, you know, where there's nothing worse when you're just running down the field and something pops, you know. So what are the big things you tell your girls as far as, you know, how to stay healthy and learning from your, by no means mistakes, but kind of the lessons you've learned? Yeah, misfortunes. Yeah, exactly.
Bad luck.
Yeah. The big things are when they do get injured, we try to make sure that they go through and learn correct form, and they learn to engage the correct muscles. I mean, even when I see them running in practice, I even fix their running form just to make sure that they are using the right muscles. Big thing is nutrition, because none of them eat enough, and that's the big problem, is when your nutrition lacks and you're not eating enough calorie-dense foods and protein-dense foods. I mean, it is a factor. I mean, there's so many factors into being injured, but the big thing for them is definitely nutrition. So that's my big preacher. That's one
that, you know, again, starting at that much younger age, because we deal with it every day here, you know, trying to get people to see that correlation between the food they put in and their performance here. You know, you may not be talking about necessarily a traumatic injury as much, but just feeling better.
Yeah.
You know, anybody you've ever seen that's, I'm lightheaded, you know, it's like, what'd you have today?
What'd you have for breakfast?
One cup of coffee.
I had a granola bar and then 6 cups of coffee, and then I came here.
I had an apple.
Yeah.
What'd you have at lunch? A slice of pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
What'd you have before practice? A couple carrots. It's like, okay.
Yeah. No, there's something very true to that. And again, there's a lot deeper, especially talking about young girls and the way they view themselves. You're going a lot deeper than that. You know, when you're talking about trying to get them to eat more and things like that. Because I know Andy goes through it all the time, just talking to people, like, you have to actually eat more to lose weight. You're in a starvation mode right now.
Yep.
You know.
I think that's one of the best things. Whenever people start actually tracking their food, they're like, oh, I know I eat like 10,000 calories a day. And then you actually track your food and you're like 500, you know, or whatever it is. And put it in perspective. That's one of the big things we try to do here, is get people on MyFitnessPal. And it is tough, and it can be monotonous at times. But if you are, especially, you know, your body is, you know, being used in a sport, or you're trying to improve your performance, like, if you don't know what you're putting into your body and, like, you know, what is actually going in protein wise, it's gotta be a hard road to get results.
Yeah. We play the fine line game with, it's an MND's an all girls high school, so you play the game of where we track the girls' food and you tell them to track it, but then you have to draw that line where they're not going to obsess over it.
Sure.
And they won't eat, so that way they don't go over that caloric intake, or they don't eat because they know that if they don't eat that many calories, they'll lose weight. So you have to deal with those kinds of mental issues that are going on in their head, because they're in high school. They just want to be skinny.
Yeah.
And it's my constant, no, you want to be strong, you want to be fit,
Right.
you want to be able to do this for high school, and if your dreams are to play in college, you have to do this.
Yeah. It's, for whatever reason, and again, if you would have told me at 16 that, you know, I had to work on my nutrition, I would completely ignore you, honestly. I mean, I remember, you know, eating 2 bowls of cereal for breakfast, you know, whatever delicious thing mom would go buy.
Before school,
bring-
after school,
bring-
after practice, 2
bring
bowls of cereal.
Pop-Tarts with me. You know, it's like there was zero nutrition. And again, hindsight is always 20/20. You look back and you talk to any athlete, but especially those guys who played on any sort of professional level, and they're like, if I would have found this when I was this age, it would have been a completely different game.
There's also the luxury of having full-time athletic trainers at high schools now that have this knowledge and can share it and know how to fix these types of issues.
I think you have a much
school.
different perspective too, because I would venture to say that most of the people who work for Beacon are not out there preaching squat heavy, you know, or squat to depth.
I get teased for doing CrossFit and chastised for doing CrossFit and weightlifting when I'm in a room full of injured runners.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
it's kind of fun just to play that game too.
Exactly. And I will say, you know, knock on wood, you know, just with you, like you have your days where, at least in Barbell Club, you know, you'll have your days where, especially weather, like that was one thing. I talked to one of our fundamental people right now. She's had a couple of knee surgeries and things like that from, again, high school sports. And you know, she's like, yeah, the weather. She's like, certain days, like you can just feel.
You know when it's gonna rain, when it's gonna snow.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
It's weird.
It's a bonus.
Yeah. So
like,
you should
oh, it's gonna rain today.
switch gears into weatherman. You get like a guy with like all of his joints just restructured, and you're like, it's gonna snow tomorrow. Like, sir, it says clear skies. It's gonna snow.
Trust me.
It's 74.
Trust the
It's
joints.
also Cincinnati.
Yeah. But yeah, there's definitely something to be said about that, and I think, unfortunately, it's just that old school knowledge, and you see more and more people, I don't say giving in, but finally realizing that you have to take in knowledge from every area. If you're not going to use it, that's fine, but you have to be willing to take in knowledge. You have to be willing to be open, because again, you just keep doing these same archaic things over and over and over again. You know, like we all read through that CSCS book together, and you're like, some of it was like, wow, that's really good, but other stuff you're like, why the hell would you do that? You know, especially with the amount of knowledge out there. We're all currently reading the Rise of Superman, you know, and they're talking about the rise in these extreme sports and how they're exponentially growing as far as skill level much faster than any traditional sport. And I think it's because they have a much more open concept to how they're growing.
Yeah.
You know, you're not doing the same things over. I think you 100% see it out on the floor in CrossFit. Again, we talked to Ben Carter, the guy who was in CrossFit Games 2009. Mark just watched the California road trip when Jason Khalipa could barely snatch 155 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely pushing the boundaries, and CrossFit's doing that. That's one of the things I really like about it. It does push the boundaries, and I think you're seeing it in weightlifting too. You know, I believe they just raised the totals to qualify for nationals.
They
and
are
stuff.
raising every single year. The 2 years ago I could have made it, and then they literally added 60 kilos to my weight class.
Yeah, that's
which is
That's a lot.
that is awesome, because I should not be on a national stage.
right.
You know,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You're mediocre at best, Jarrett.
At best. On my good days. This is like three a year.
I'm sure a lot of people probably are wondering that maybe don't know Becca, maybe aren't a part of the gym every day. Like, well, how did you go from 4 ACL, tears and surgeries to strongest girl in the gym? So maybe speak a little bit of life into your journey kind of back. I don't know if you guys want to go in that direction.
Yeah, 100%.
We'll go there. Before that, I did intros. I did a Saturday class.
Because, sorry to jump in, I think a lot of people would have been like, all right, I'm done with that. I just tore my ACL getting my, knee into a band.
Doing Helen.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
But you weren't, so.
Yeah. So I started CrossFit by doing a Saturday class at the second gym.
Probably second.
It was the second gym, the one further down Russell Street.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of just did it just to start hanging out with my brother after I graduated from school and moving back. I didn't have anything else
So
to do.
Parker's supposed to come out here Saturday.
Yep, Parker.
Yeah.
You better come.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I decided to do the intros. And I started it because I missed being competitive, and I missed that high level sport activity that I used to do, because in college I would run and do Pilates and drink and then run and Pilates and then drink.
And you're not talking about protein shakes?
There's some protein in there, I'm sure.
It's like
I'm sure.
0.1 grams per 18-ounce can, right?
It was a carb loader back
Yeah.
then.
I was cultivating mass.
Yeah.
It was bulking season for 4 years.
I was doing research.
So I did that, and after the 4th ACL, I knew that I wanted to stick with it, and I kind of told myself, I really was just setting myself up to just, stay in shape. And I told myself, I was like, I don't want to do this to compete. I don't want to do this to be top of the leaderboard or the whiteboard, or I don't want to do it. I just want to be healthy. And then I started to hit numbers, and I just wanted to be strong again, and I wanted to get back to it because it was fun, and it was fun to feel like I was lifting heavy, because it kind of made me feel empowered again. It was like being a goalkeeper all over again, where I could do strong things and I could be a leader and I could just have fun with it this time around. Yep. And so I would hang out with my then boyfriend, now husband, and I would sleep in his car while he coached 6:30 a.m. class, and then afterwards I would go in and he would do my knee rehab with me, and then squat a little bit, and eventually learn how to Olympic lift and run again. And so then I came here to the car wash.
The old car wash. Because he was at Blue Ash at the time, correct? He was at Blue Ash
at the time.
Yeah, shout out to Blake.
Yeah, hey Blake.
Yeah, because and
it was kind of roundabout.
Yeah, no, it's, and then you're much more into Olympic weightlifting now. We just did the kegs and kilos meet, and I think we're kind of both in the same boat. Yeah, there you go. Mark's got the shirt on. You got a couple of for sale left down in the lobby. I'll set up a PayPal. We can ship it to you. Figure out how to do that.
Fancy.
They're very reasonably sized. I think it's just double XL. If you're
yeah. No, we got a small down there.
Oh, okay. Small or double XL?
Small or double XL.
It's either a muscle shirt or a sleep shirt.
That's right. But I fell in love with weightlifting, and this just goes back to a lot of just getting into the outlaw stuff, following like Rudy, and really just that mantra of like everything is everything. And for me, the lungs have never been the issue. I
wish I had that problem.
Right, but I couldn't squat correctly. I went through 6 months of rehab trying to figure out how to squat, because I just never. Again, I played soccer, and ran, and it was all quads, and I'm, just getting now over a little hip thing, and again, refocusing on how to squat correctly. But again, that love for Olympic weightlifting is transferred over to the CrossFit. It makes the idea is that if you can squat more and you can do it correctly, and you can pull more off the ground, you can push more weight overhead, the other stuff becomes secondary.
Right.
And I don't know if that's the same path it is for you, if it's just like I just really love the sport. Because I feel like you're probably barbell club, and then you'll do a couple days of CrossFit.
Yeah, I do love CrossFit. I love the atmosphere that it brings, and I love being able to see my friends 3 days a week, and we get to talk and catch up. I love the challenge that it brings, but I started weightlifting because I wanted to get better at the fun lifts.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get stronger. And I was like, well, I'll just do this, and I'll just learn the technique and get better at it. And then I realized how technical it was. And then that competitive drive kicked in again. And I was like, let's see how good I can get at it, and let's see what I can do. And that's when I learned that it was my true love.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's something you said there too, where it's like, I want to see how good I can get, and again, there's not the idea of like, I'm going to be best in the world. Because you would have had to start doing this when you were 8 years old, and there's few people that can just jump in and be truly amazing at it. And that's one of the things where it's just personal development. Because again, if you're not personally developing yourself, whether it's physically or mentally, you're just going to be stagnant and ultimately or metaphorically just die, if you're not pushing yourself. So outside of the physical things, what kind of mental things do you do to kind of push yourself mentally.
Did you just say doo-doo on the
Did you
mic?
just say doo-doo?
You said doo-doo.
I think we all said
That's
doo-doo.
going to be the, you know how we put the little clip before everything?
Uh-huh.
That's going to be the part. It's just going to be a 3-second clip where I just say doo-doo.
Oh, there it is.
Can that be my new text tone?
Yep.
Doo-doo.
There you go. Anyways, going back
So
to...
what was the question?
What pushes you mentally? You know, I know you and Chris have been going to Crossroads a lot more, and, you know, we both come from a Catholic education background. Neither of us were probably practicing Catholics, right?
Not for some time.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, is that your only mental kind of push, or is there stuff you read that makes you kind of push yourself a little bit more?
I think going back to kind of finding my own faith again, that really has been a mental push. It's definitely made me reflect more on my own self and how I can be better, not just as an exerciser, but also as...
Wait, there's more than exercise?
There's more than just exercise.
Nope.
I found that out.
Podcast is canceled.
Yep.
That was the
No.
premise.
Yep,
I know.
cancel it.
I found, just besides exercising, I have learned that I can push myself to be a better human in general, just to be a better leader for my female athletes and being more positive. There was one day when we talked about how all high school kids are savages
Yep.
when we were at Crossroads, and realized that I see these savages every day, and I do still need to treat them with love and respect. That has kind of changed my outlook on treating everybody better, and it's just kind of pushed me to be more positive here at work and at home. I don't did I answer
No,
the
that's
question?
100%. Because it's self-actualization and self-realization that, you know, you can make changes in your life. You know, we're under this pretense so often that it's like, well, that's just the way I am. You know, it's,
There's,
you know,
there's a lot of self-reflection in
Yeah,
the
there's-
past year or so.
yeah, and there has to be, and there's, you know, for me, it wasn't until it was put in an ownership role to where it's like, wow, you gotta stop being a dick, for a lack of a better term, you know, to people, because you don't have anything figured out, let alone in your mind you think you have it figured out. You have nothing figured out. And the people that you're not treating well all have families, all have lives, all have stories behind them. And again, that's part of the premise of why we started doing this, is like to tell those stories that and again, I think I might have said it before, there's a old Mr. Rogers quote. It's actually from a social worker, but Mr. Rogers kept it in his wallet, and it says there's no one you can't learn to love once you've heard their story, you know, and that's 100% true. You know, after every single person we've had on here, let alone that we already liked him to begin with, or else we probably wouldn't have asked him to be on here. You just have a deeper understanding once you actually get to know them. And I think that's the whole concept of, like, once you start to treat people a different way, you know, for better or for worse, you're going to see them in a different light. If you treat them better, you're probably going to see them in a better light. If you treat them worse, you're probably going to see them in a worse light.
Well, and unfortunately, you might not get along with everyone. You know, I mean, that's just
That's the reality.
That's the
That's
reality
the
of
way
the
of
situation.
life.
And, you know, we do live in America, which is extremely a diverse country. And obviously, we're dealing with a lot of different things that are, you know, terrible on a day-to-day basis. It's unimaginable what some people are dealing with. And I think, you know, us sitting at this table and a lot of people at the gym are very, very fortunate. So I know speaking to Becca's point about reframing and reflecting, is just doing a little more volunteer work and stuff like that. You know, feed the homeless for a weekend and see how bad you think you have it. You know, so there's always ways to reframe and reflect. And I think, like your fitness, you know, sometimes like we do the open every year. That's a year where people want to, like, you know, tense up a little bit more and
I hate
you
the
know,
open.
yeah, I don't really particularly love the open either. But to keep it in perspective, it's like, am I going to the games? No.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
it doesn't matter necessarily.
It doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah.
But to me and to people that do it, you know, I want to do well. I want to do the best I can. If I don't feel like I've done my best, then of course I'm going to be a little bit upset. But you try to keep it in perspective. But to make a correlation in the life, like the same way that I want to have a constant evolution of my fitness, I want to have a constant evolution of, you know, my personality and the people that I hang out with and the things that I know, to, sit on, your ivory tower, whatever you want to say, in your ivory tower and just be like, I have it all figured out. That's just ultimately the wrong approach. And it's the same way with fitness, with athletics, with relationships. I mean, Becca actually introduced me to my wife. So, we're recently married, and
You're welcome.
yeah, thank you. But obviously starting down this long road of marriage, it's going to, Jarrett's engaged and obviously Becca's married. It's a constant evolution, like it's going to change if you have kids, so on and so forth. But anyway, the one thing I definitely want Becca to speak to as well is, this kind of transition with the fitness, just maybe a little bit more of, hey, when I was listening to you go over it, it's like, hey, my goals have changed. And now I'm competitive in barbell club. And it's kind of sounded like, I know CrossFit is necessary for my fitness and I like it. There's this community piece, and I feel like that's the through line, which makes all the CrossFit gyms awesome, is generally they have a community that just kicks ass. So maybe speak to whenever you decided, hey, I want to do barbell and take do a little less CrossFit, and how your strengths have even become stronger in your barbell and probably even in CrossFit.
Hold on to that thought.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a quick break, and
Sure.
then we'll come back and we'll answer that question.
Oh, suspense.
It's killing me. CrossFit is demanding both physically and mentally. Setting goals are the foundation to push your athletic ability, and the hour we have together a day may not always be in line with those personal milestones you've set for yourself. Triumph Performance is based around just that, your goals. Together, in a one-on-one setting with your coach, we will set manageable and timely goals. Your program, unique to your needs, will accelerate the path to your target. Most have an idea of where they may want to go, but together with your Triumph Performance coach, we will assess your fitness level, develop a custom fitness plan, and keep you on track to successfully complete your goal. For more information, please contact a coach or email info@triumphstrength.net. And we're back. You're listening to the Everyday Athlete Podcast, and today we have Becca Lemmel, my little sister and wife of Coach Chris, and all-around BA.
It's funny.
Is that a bachelor's associate?
Yes.
No.
Bachelor's associate. It's all the
Yeah,
degrees.
bachelor
It's all
of
the
arts
degrees.
and associates.
Before we left, Mark kind of posed a quick question, and I think what he was kind of getting at is if you stop doing so if you're not doing CrossFit 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and you're supplementing this weightlifting in, have you seen a increase in performance?
What has that done for your fitness?
Yeah.
I think it's actually improved my fitness for the most part. My cardio was never very good, but it has gone down just a little bit, just because I do a little bit less of the running and the rowing, but it's never been my favorite, so I've never really focused on it. But I would say that my overall strengths have improved, and it's also mentally improved my mental game as well, just kind of pushing and grinding and wanting to do well in all of the CrossFit workouts.
Yeah, absolutely. I played a lot of video games growing up, especially like any of your NBA jams and all that kind of stuff. I just remember you'd have your player, and then you had little stats. It's like power, speed, agility, stamina, and you tried to inch your guy up a little bit each time, and you'd have somebody who was real skinny, so they were fast but they weren't very strong. You have the big guy, and he was the strong guy, but he can run very fast, or whatever it was. And I think that's how I visualize what we're trying to do with CrossFit, is trying to get those little sliders up as much as possible. And you talk about something like weightlifting, knowing going into it that you're going to have to sacrifice something to gain somewhere else.
That was the hardest part.
Yeah, but
was knowing that I would have to sacrifice 2 days of CrossFit to really focus on weightlifting.
Sure.
But it turns out if you get stronger,
I mean,
things become
I've
easier.
gotten stronger, and I mean, I've always been an explosive athlete, so those short burst workouts have always been my jam. But it's just the long workouts that are constantly a grind, and they're not my favorite.
And it's not like you aren't improving when you do them.
Oh no, I'm always getting better.
I don't do barbell club, and they're still a grind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things that you have to be willing to sacrifice, and knowing that there's going to be sacrifices, and this is just not even strictly speaking towards exercise, but in this instance, when you talk about, hey, I'm going to work on getting stronger, I might not be able to run as fast. You know, right? But for a lot of people, it's like this. They're not willing to let go of these 20-minute, you know, AMRAPs and stuff like that, where it's like, I'm gonna crush these every time, but then you put a heavy squat in, and it's like, oh, can't do it. You know?
I believe it was Socrates that said, "Know thyself." I could be wrong. Might have been Homer. I don't know. But anyway, I think it's super important though, right? I mean, to kind of know, accept that, to be able to accept like, hey, look, you know, I'm gonna do a barbell club. My conditioning might suffer a little bit, but guess what? That's not really what I like to do necessarily. And I'm still going to be pretty damn fit, even by not like burying myself constantly. Right. And, you know, and like I said, you still supplement some of that stuff in. And again, it all goes back to kind of why you're training. If you're training to, are you looking to do the American Open? Is that what your
series?
It's a lifetime goal.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's not to run a marathon. So that would be,
those would be,
you know, if your goal was to run a marathon, you're doing barbell club, it'd be like, hey, Becca, what are we doing here?
Right. But there's I remember Will Rivas. This just has always stuck with me, and it comes from OP. He went to OPT camp, which it's OPEX now, right?
Yeah.
So he went to an OPT kind of weekend getaway type thing, and as much about learning about yourself as it was about fitness. And you know, he came back with this kind of different change of mind, because he's my height, but he was probably 220, and not like 220 like kind of like 220.
He was probably 230.
230. He's pretty jacked.
He's a big dude for especially for CrossFitters in 2012
exactly
or whatever.
Very strong, you know, but he's going to struggle with certain things, you know, on, you know, come to pull-ups and things like. I remember he was at the first year we went to regionals, and it was 100 chest to bars, 100 kettlebell swings, 100 overhead squats, 100 double unders, and he was struggling with the chest to bars, and then I think he did 90 kettlebell swings. You know, it's just like, you do that part, I'll do this, you know, that kind of thing. But his point was, he came back and was kind of clear head, and it was like, the big thing that he took away from that was, you have to train to your essence. Meaning, and Mark, I think you've kind of gone through this personally, and I think we all have, but you had one where it was like, I'm going to work on getting stuff overhead. It's something you struggle with shoulder mobility, but I'm never going to be a strong overhead squatter. Yeah. You know, but it's training to that essence. Like, you physically, like, you could probably work on your running and work on your metabolic capacity, but you're never going to be
I'm never going to be a great runner.
Right. So, but yeah, exactly. So you train your essence, you still work on weaknesses.
I actually look forward to those weakness days now more than I used to, because they're far and few now. So I'm like, oh wow, this is something that I can actually focus on
100%.
again.
The day
you can almost, you know, correlate it to, if you were to go to college and they were like, you need to pick 5 majors. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's you know, high school, you're taking all these different classes, and it's like, all right, well, I'm good at math, or I'm kind of good at a foreign language or whatever. You know, whenever you get to college, you actually get to narrow that down. Yeah, you have to take your gen eds and all that stuff, but you get to focus on what you want to do. So you have to keep it realistic. I mean, there's a double major. There's no triple, quadruple major out there where you can really focus on gymnastics, weightlifting, you know, all these things. And that's what's so amazing about CrossFit is, you know, as this evolution begins, you know, all right, you know, maybe in the beginning they had a very good cardiovascular base, and now they can all lift weights really good. And you're seeing this gymnastics layer on top, and then all these odd objects, and they're constantly kind of layering the cake, if you will, full of all these tricks. Will any person from the CrossFit Games be able to qualify for the Olympics for gymnastics? Definitely not. You know, in my opinion, definitely not. You've seen Tara Toomey. Toomey? Yeah, Toomey.
It's Changed now. She had a surprise wedding.
Oh, okay. Well, hey,
Surprise wedding.
Tia. We'll just say Tia.
Yeah.
She wore a crop
She
top
went to the
wedding
Olympics
dress.
for weightlifting, which
Yeah.
I think is very,
2 weeks after the games.
yeah, crazy athlete.
Yeah.
Crazy. In the same breath, and you can go on like, will anyone make it for sprinting? No. Swimming? No. But they have all this in their repertoire. So it's kind of that jack of all trades and kind of correlate not just to your own journey. Like you're saying, if Becca's training for the American Open, then 100% she should be in barbell club, lifting weights, supplement some fitness with CrossFit. Everyone has a different kind of recipe, and it's just, I think ultimately it's finding that recipe. For me, like Jarrett said, I know that I'm never going to be able to overhead squat a house. It's wrist and shoulders, and there's some things there, and it ultimately becomes a diminishing return. Like if I'm going to spend 3 hours a day on mobility and not my fitness, then what am I really doing?
Right.
So
Then
it's picking your poison.
Mine's the same thing with deadlifts. It's like, do I need to deadlift heavy in order to be fit? No, there's other ways to do it. That's one of those things as you grow more and you realize that like I don't have to do. Just in the last class I just taught this morning, we're doing a heavy day with maxing out on snatch, and she's got a shoulder injury, so we didn't do any barbell stuff. We gave her a completely different workout, basically more like a Metcon for the day while everyone else is lifting heavy. The point is she still can be very fit and not have to go overhead, and that's what we're here for, to help people realize that, but also to facilitate and keep people safe.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the biggest things.
And that's what Becca does daily as well.
I fix people.
Yeah.
Fix their injuries.
Yeah. You're more in the post-injury side of things, right? Unfortunately.
No, athletic trainers are injury prevention. So if we see something, we try to fix it before that injury happens. We're immediate care, we're post-op care, we're post-injury care. I pretty much do it all. We do a lot of strength and conditioning preseason to make sure that they are strong enough. We do a lot of ACL prevention during the summer, and which includes a lot of plyometrics, a lot of glute, hamstring, quad strengthening, a lot of jumps, just to make sure that they are landing correctly and we can train those muscles to land correctly. I'm also like the team psychologist, the team psychotherapist.
Yeah.
I would imagine a
nutrition
lot of the
coach.
girls look up to you too, so you're probably like a team leader.
I am.
Like, Becca, how do I get as strong as you?
Yes, I've been asked that.
Eat
Sometimes
more.
I get texts late at night like, hey, will you make me a workout that'll get me a good butt? And those texts get ignored.
Oh,
But yeah, they have mistaken me.
But seriously, can you?
But can
Yeah.
you? Or those weird pictures of their feet late at night. Does this look weird? I'm like, no.
Oh, good. That's my mom's doing. Like, what? What are you saying?
No, there's also, they will call me mom by mistake sometimes because we do see each other more than they unfortunately don't see their families enough during their sports seasons. So
Yeah.
I am mom. I'm team mom.
Are you, what do you feel about multi-sport athletes?
I love it.
More so
It's-
than a single sport?
When you're a single sport, you're going in the same direction for 3 seasons out of the year, and you're more prone to injury because you're not training the other muscles. You're not training your body to go different ways. If you are multifaceted, you're going to prevent so many more injuries. We give awards for being a 3-sport athlete because it's something to strive for. You focus on one sport and you're not going to get good at it again.
Yeah. Would there, this is just more of a personal curiosity. What if you thought, do you think if someone came to just did whiteboard classes but were a single sport athlete, would that be enough to prevent a lot of those? Because again, this is unfortunately CrossFit has this scarlet letter of you're gonna get hurt,
Right.
and we know that's not true if you're doing things correctly. And unfortunately, people just take this hour and cram in as much as possible, and then don't realize that there's recovery involved.
Well, and generally too, whenever people are getting hurt, they have a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
Becca, perfect example. Hey, I tore my ACL getting in. Hey, you felt that before doing the soccer, and then it really went. But and myself, the reason I deal with a lot of shoulder and stuff like that was baseball and football.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
All goes back to high school.
Yeah.
I have a pre-existing condition of not being able to jump high enough. So when I landed shin first on a box, is that a pre-existing condition?
It's called too white.
It's called Casper syndrome.
Yeah.
No, but I guess my question is there's not going to be any evidence because you get enough crap about doing CrossFit in general. But I'm saying, like, just from a personal experience, do you think that doing something like that, like coming to a whiteboard class and only being a one sport athlete?
I think it's a great addition.
Yeah.
I think it would definitely help.
Because you couldn't be a
them
3-sport athlete and then come to 5-day-a-week. You'd be crushed.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, there's enough variance in whiteboard classes that it would allow those kids, any athlete, to train different things and go different directions than just, you see so many baseball injuries because they throw so many times a day and they throw all year long and they go in one direction. I think doing CrossFit would definitely be a great addition to a single sport athlete. Sure.
Is there evidence of showing, like, because again, you when I was in high school, which again, I'm gonna get back to back in my day, put some tussin on it, you'll be fine. Is there evidence now showing that, like, having a full-time athletic trainer on staff helps prevent a lot of those injuries?
I'm sure there is evidence. I'm 100% sure that there is. I just haven't read of it recently.
Because usually you're not keeping track. You don't know that there's something didn't happen unless it actually happens. But you could probably say that there's X amount of ACL tears back in the day, and then there's.
I think there are a lot more recorded injuries now.
Sure.
Because
it's probably skewed
somebody
data.
being there on site every day of the week, 6 days a week, really.
And not to mention the amazing amount of unrecorded concussions and things like that.
They are now trying to beat the system because in Ohio it's a law now to report concussions, and it's a law to go to the doctor to get cleared for a concussion. So it's not only just a health issue; it's now an Ohio state law.
Wow.
It's fun. It's fun stuff to go through.
And to put things in maybe a little bit of perspective, you're someone that's around multiple sports 6 days a week, just like you said. Again, Jarrett just said, hey, one of the stigmas of CrossFit is you're going to get hurt. And I think we've all looked at the data in comparison, but maybe just shedding light on for some people that, put it in perspective. How, and you don't have to give an exact number, but how much more likely are you to get hurt playing a sport than working out?
It's the equal amount. It's really the equal amount. Honestly.
I've as far as serious injury, I can't tell you how many times I've rolled ankles, taped up, and went back in, because it's the competitive spirit. But as far as serious injuries go, I personally can tell you that over the 7 years, I've probably had, I don't know, 3 serious injuries, and again, mainly pre-existing conditions, all in my hip.
I've only had 1.
Yeah, and
2.
Versus I can't even play recreational soccer. I tried to play again, and the first game took a free kick to the side of my head and blew my right eardrum out, and then took my big toenail off. Took 4 weeks off, came back, and pulled a groin. So
yeah, I would imagine, especially when you look at like hours in the gym and hours on the playing field, I would skew the numbers way more likely to get injured on doing an athletic endeavor than actually hurt lifting weights. And then generally, the reason you got hurt lifting weights was because you were probably doing the athletic endeavor incorrectly or too repetitively on one side or whatever the case may be.
And there's definitely something to be said about we get adults who were once very competitive athletes, have taken a substantial amount of time off, and then come back in like they were those athletes.
Been sitting at a
It's
desk
your
for
weekend warrior.
And again, that's that mental game we try and push into people early on. Like, you're gonna want to hit the gas pedal. You're gonna have to back off.
Right.
It's definitely unfortunate that CrossFit does have that stigma of you're going to get hurt, and when you do get hurt, somebody always chastises you for it. But
in the reality,
but these people are trying to stay active and they're trying to exercise. So why are you giving them grief for exercising as adults versus a high school kid who's trying to get a college scholarship?
Unfortunately,
in exercising. We're all exercising if you think about it.
And their bodies still aren't even developed.
With our little brother's most recent injury, well, it's just expected.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Oh, he's in high school. Oh, it happened. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
it's never lacrosse is bad for you.
No.
Yeah.
You know.
Or you're gonna get hurt.
Right. Exactly.
I think we would be remiss before we end this podcast not to get a little insight into the childhood of the Bastons and growing up.
Oh God.
Maybe just a fun fact.
We might have to take another break.
Fun fact
It's
about
a 2-hour podcast.
Jarrett, and you can shed some light into Mr. Lemmel as well if you want. But yeah, I'll let you. I'll just throw the ball in your court and do what you want.
Oh, what do you want?
Maybe just a fun fact about growing up with Jarrett.
Oh, well, Marty already ruined my secret nickname for Jarrett, which was JB Jelly.
Yeah.
JB Jelly.
JB Jelly.
It's come out twice now.
Yeah.
We can start. I'll change my Wodify profile to that. I'll change my name and profile. Be good. JB Jelly.
Jarrett was supposed to play soccer as a senior, and when he was going to conditioning early in the morning, he just slept in his car and then lied to Mom all summer long about it.
Jarrett.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, you lied to Mom about going to conditioning when you were bringing other kids to it, and you just slept while they ran.
Yeah,
Terry, if you're listening, I think you know what to do. You
Mom's
have to do
gonna
now.
listen to this. Yeah. there's a couple things I'm not super proud of from high school. I'll.
We don't have to get into all those, Jarrett.
Yeah,
right?
no.
Let's
Unfortunately, Jarrett was too cool for me during his high school years, so we didn't really talk a whole lot. So I don't really.
What you
know too
guys are
much
about?
him.
How? What's the age difference?
It's weird. All 4 of us are spread out almost equally in years. At
4
least
or
as
5.
far as like grades, like we were all equally amount different part of like. And when I was a senior, you were. What would that make you?
I was an 8th grader.
8th grade, and then
think.
Taylor.
Yeah.
So like basically, we
And
were
then
all
Taylor was in 4th grade.
evenly spaced out. I always tell our parent, I was the guinea pig. Our parents were very young when they had me. Mom was what, 21, something like that. So they were married very young, and had me almost right away.
Yeah, Craig.
Yeah. I was
Wasted no time.
I was giving crap. I was like, "This is like the day after." Or, so they
Mom used to dress Jared up like a girl.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
There are some photos. I'm in a powder blue. I'll find the picture.
Oh,
I'm in a powder
That's
blue,
pretty cute.
a
I'm
powder
so glad
blue
we-
tux, I believe, with like powder blue shoes.
Yes.
It's pretty solid.
Yes.
The fun overalls.
Yeah,
Used
lots
to-
of
I used
overalls.
to wear a lot of
Keep going.
overalls.
Yeah. Remember crisscross with the overalls and the one off, like you would. Yeah.
Jared did love his bowl cut.
Yeah, I had a bowl cut. That's probably why I'm bald. It's God's way of punishing me for having a bowl
wow.
cut.
The bowl cut and the mole was just the cutest.
I had a mole right here. They thought it was cancer, so we took
Really?
that out. Yeah.
That was fun watching you get that removed.
What was it? Cancer?
No.
Oh.
No. They literally they numbed it, and then I'm awake as a child, and they sliced me open and popped it out. Another fun fact.
Oh yeah.
Remember that one time when you passed out in the bathroom after drawing blood at the doctor's
No, they gave me.
office?
It was a Hep C booster. I was like 11, and I don't do well with needles at all. I told Lauren if and when we have children, she just bring the baby home. I'll be at home.
He said, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And then like 20 minutes
woke
later,
up-
we're like, where is he?
I woke up stuck between the wall and the toilet,
Yes.
and
What are some other fun ones?
so
Oh, when Mom rolled the window up on you in the car on the highway.
Mom
And I almost choked you.
rolled the window up on my head.
Were you trying to jump out?
I don't know. I
I
guess
think
like
we
a
saw
dog or
Dad
something?
on the highway and we were trying to wave to him.
Yeah.
I think. And she just rolled the window up.
there
Almost choked him.
was one time I
You
remember
probably deserved it.
these traumatizing things you remember.
Oh,
We
it's
were
getting-
in
it's
Eden
getting
Park.
serious.
There's a what was it? Not Mirror Lake. There's one.
Oh, on the lookout. At the lookout.
Yeah, like we were
Mount Lookout.
up that way for your wedding
Yeah.
pictures. Anyways, there's a small pond there, and it's probably knee deep for us. Like as adults, it's probably maybe knee deep, and it was iced over.
Because we always went to Crone Conservatory during
Yeah.
Christmas to
And
look
my
at the
mom,
flowers.
brought me over this little park, and I walked out on the ice, and I fell through.
Uh-oh.
And I was a small child, so it was like neck deep, and I freaked out. And obviously, if you're looking at it from outside of a probably 3-year-old's perspective, my mom probably just reached in and was like, "Oh, here you go," pulled me out. But it was so traumatic. I remember this today, and then it was freezing out, so I had to like get naked and like bundle up in a coat in the back seat. It was awful. Clearly, it didn't affect me at all.
Jared.
Damn it, Jarrett.
What were we talking about earlier with the mole?
Moly, moly, moly.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Bowl cuts,
bowl cuts.
being bald now.
We covered it pretty good.
You covered
amount of
pretty good.
space.
I will say,
I'm happy with that, Becca. Thank you.
I'd like to formally apologize to my mother for the last exam I ever took in high school.
Oh God, she
I
was
went
still
in-
upset about that.
And I went in and put, I think, all B's down and was done in about 15 seconds. I had technically already passed.
Mhm.
Because
but,
you needed what, like a 15?
I got a 30%. And and at our commencement as seniors, they have a breakfast for you where your parents come, they give you your final report card, and it has all your final exam grades on it.
Mhm.
She cried.
Oh, Terry.
I'll never forget that one. That's pretty painful.
I want you
Great.
to remember that every day.
Yep. So
In
now it's out
grade
there.
school, it's always, whenever they did roll call on the first day, like, oh, you're Jarrett's little sister.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was gonna get to. Yeah, no, mom and dad are. I was the guinea pig. Becca was always very, very, very smart in school, so they got it right as far as like schooling. Like I was a terrible student. Like I'm really bad at sitting down and learning things.
I'm also a perfectionist.
Yeah, but I am
I've
too
been
to an
given
extent.
that.
Is the problem? It just never came through in like schoolwork.
I always felt the pressure to try to be the best.
So
I guess
she would
that
always
hasn't
get
messed me up at all. This
awesome
around
grades. Taylor, they start to slack off a little bit. She does very well in school, but they
now.
started.
She had to find something that she loved
Yeah.
to do well.
And then Parker is one of the most creative, funniest, just genuine people I've ever met. But just he's the youngest, and they're like, sorry, buddy, if you're listening. You got,
We love you.
yeah, we do love you quite a bit. But
He is self-named the golden child,
yeah, so
self-proclaimed.
self-proclaimed the golden child. So he's like, it's golden because it was also an accident.
Hey, me too, Parker.
You're all accidents, fine. But yeah, there's a lot, obviously a lot more history there. We have a wonderful family, and our extended family's pretty amazing. We just lost an uncle recently, and it was pretty amazing to see our family kind of rally around those in need. And I think any family is going to do that. It's just you don't see it that often from your own family. You see a lot of the stories that come out from, people rallying around those in, when people are hurting and things like that. But we've been very fortunate in our family with not having a lot of tragedy. And when it does happen, it was pretty comforting to see those people kind of come around, sharing. And
Well, I think, when you get on a deeper, more practical, level for just people that are listening and if you're thinking about going to a gym and, CrossFit is a family, man. And that's one of the things we battle with daily is like, all right, how do we connect with our people more? Where I'm a guy that I've got 10,000 ideas a day, and Jarrett kind of reins me in a little bit, but the through line for me, and recently even more so, has just been like, man, there's just so many amazing people inside these four walls, and I want everyone to just meet and get to know each other, and that's ultimately why we're sitting here talking to Becca today, so you guys can get to know her a little bit more. And so yeah, if you made it this far and you want to be on the podcast, like obviously it's pretty simple, just let us know, and we want to ultimately have a family outlet, because for me, I'm not from here, so I don't have a lot of direct family. So at the gym, if you're here, you're my family, and the coaches, obviously the coaches' wives, we're all family. We want to do life together, and everyone's a little dysfunctional, when it comes to family. Not you, you're a perfectionist. I was talking about Jarrett. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, just on a real note, before obviously we close it out, that's what CrossFit is. I think it can mean have a lot of different definitions, a lot of different people, and but yeah, it's definitely family.
I'm reading a book right now. I learned to read last week, so
Left
I
to
started
right,
reading.
top to bottom.
And one of the big things that I'm reading about is vulnerability. And the big connection that came was being vulnerable here at the gym,
Yeah.
and opening yourself up to stuff that challenges you, as well as opening yourself up to other people here, and just really reaching out to other people and learning about their stories, and just saying hey and talking
Yeah.
to them
Oh,
and
you
asking
never
how
know.
their day is. And that's the easiest way to get to know somebody here. And
absolutely.
it's
And
fun.
you might catch them on a bad day, but you just keep saying hello, and
Yeah.
eventually they'll probably give in and say hello back.
Yeah.
Eventually.
And even on a bigger scale, just sometimes in life, like, believe it or not, grocery store,
Yep.
whatever. You never know whenever your little act of kindness or something like that could, take someone to a better place mentally. So
Absolutely. So I have two big questions back.
right.
So this may be a little bit deep for the first one, but I was just always curious as far as what are the challenges that come with being my sister here and the obviously the spouse of trainer here. Is there
24/7
24/7? Is there a lot of pressure involved with that? Is it
That is a multifaceted question.
It's all right.
It's challenging to be the sister of somebody so fit because you feel like you have to live up to a certain expectation because you are related. And if Jarrett is so good at weightlifting and CrossFit, then you should be too. Being the wife of a CrossFit coach is also challenging because at first, when we first started dating, I was self-conscious about myself and thought that every single girl in the gym was better than me and that Chris would automatically leave me. But then he threatened to actually leave me if I kept on repeating it. So I stopped thinking that.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah. Backfired.
It's very interesting to see the aspect. Sometimes there are some weeks where I request to not hear about CrossFit at home. I understand it's so hard to not do because that is my brother's livelihood and it's my family's livelihood and I want to see it succeed. And it's hard to draw that line where you want to stick up for your husband, but then you want to stick up for your brother. And hearing some of the stuff, it's hard to see both sides of it. And it's hard to understand where everyone's coming from sometimes. And I think the challenge is just to keep a level head about it and know that everything is in a positive idea for the business and for our futures and for our livelihood.
It's a positive direction for all of us. That's the one thing that Mark and I pride ourselves on, I guess, is we're always trying to push the line forward.
Mm-hmm.
In the best, we have failed millions of times owning this business, small and big, and but it's always with the intention that we're trying to push the line forward for all of us because none of us want to be in our 70s working as hard as we do now. The idea is to try and work hard now and hopefully reap the benefits later, and then teach people how to not work as hard and do the right things.
Help a lot of people in the process.
It's definitely fun. It's fun to be a part of. It's something that I've always wanted to get more involved in. Is just to keep it all in the family. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. And the last question is just a general one. We like to see people's perspective, and that is, what is your definition of fitness?
Okay. My definition of fitness would have to be being physically and mentally healthy enough to face the challenges of each day and accomplishing them knowing that you did your best. For me personally, it's definitely a physical thing daily. I sling around 10-gallon coolers all day at work. I do fitness as a living. I teach these girls how to exercise correctly and make sure that it's all good. And then mentally, it's pushing myself through each day and pushing myself to get better as far as learning more about the body and learning more about rehab processes and making sure that I don't get burnt out during the busy seasons.
Awesome. Yes, always. I like hearing that from the clinical side of things too. Because a lot of people have a very, I don't want to say touchy-feely kind of just roundabout thing of fitness or idea of fitness, but when you talk about combining that with a more clinical side of things, it's always interesting to hear. Thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure.
Good to finally have you here. And thank you all for listening to Everyday Athlete. Join us next week as we dive deep into the lives of the people who make us great. Thanks, Becca.
Peace out, y'all.